Hello and welcome to another edition of Nutrition Bites. I'm your host, Steve Graham, joined today with dietetic intern Maria Kotwicki, who's here to discuss about marathon preparation and fueling your body. And as the warm weather is coming, people are getting off the treadmills, they're signing up for these races. And with these races, there's so much preparation involved, and nutrition is obviously a big part of it. Could you tell us a little bit why it's so important?
Sure. So fueling your body properly plays a major impact on your athletic performance. What you eat, when you eat, how you eat, all makes such a difference. Generally speaking, marathon runners' diets should be high in carbohydrates, moderate in protein, and low in fat.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. And the first thing I think about is pasta with a lot of carbs. Why is pasta such a staple in a runner's diet?
Sure, so carbohydrates are the preferred source of energy in your diets and help really to fuel your muscles for your athletic performance. So carbohydrates, they're stored in our muscle and liver as glycogen. When we exercise, our glycogen starts to burn quickly, and then it also needs to be depleted. So in order to replenish your carbohydrates, just because you don't want to feel tired or feel lousy when you're performing, you want to make sure you're performing at your best. So in order to do so, you want to have a high carbohydrate diet. So with that being said, it depends upon where you're at in your training, but your carbohydrate intake should be between 50% to 70% of your caloric intake. And you can find carbohydrates in a variety of foods, whether it's fruits, vegetables, grains, even low-fat dairy products.
Now, and along with carbohydrates, I know there's a lot of controversy of whether athletes should stay away from protein or take advantage of it. Could you tell me a little bit more about what your thoughts on, is protein good for an athlete's diet? What kind of protein should they eat?
Definitely, great question. So protein is so important for an athlete's diet. Protein is just important generally for overall growth and repair. For strength training and endurance athletes, they generally need 1.2 to 1.7 grams of kilogram per body weight. So for example, an 180-pound person, he or she would need about 98 to 140 grams of protein per day. And it's best to consume protein from whole foods such as lean meats, poultry, low-fat dairy products, eggs, just so you're consuming all the protein with the essential amino acids. You do want to make sure you are avoiding the higher fat type protein foods, such as full-fat milk, the burgers, those types of things.
Yeah, and those are the good food. But
yeah.
But with fat, you mentioned, is fat really going to worsen the performance of athletes? Is this something that they definitely need to stay away from?
No, so definitely. So great question. So fats provide a very important source of energy in our diets. Generally speaking, athletes should consume no more than 20% to 35% of your daily caloric intake from fats. It's always best to consume healthy fats, such as those found from olive oil, your avocado, those types of things, and avoid the saturated and trans fats that are generally found in your full-fat milk and your butter.
Yeah, and as much as all this food is necessary for the nutrition, fluids are, especially with runners, a high fluid intake. Could you tell us a little bit about what kind of drinks should they be looking for? Is it drinks high in electrolytes or just water? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so great question. I'm so glad you asked that. So hydration is so important for optimal performance. For short durations, generally speaking, less than 60 minutes a day, water is totally fine to have before, during, and after. You want to make sure you're replenishing your fluids, your electrolytes and fluids that are lost in sweat. So with that being said, for those over 60 minutes, which running a marathon you definitely will be, you want to make sure you're constantly hydrating yourself with at least sports drinks and also water to replenish your fluids and electrolytes. One big thing that's a very big part of training for a marathon, you do not want to wait until you're thirsty to start drinking water. Taking small sips before, during, and after is huge and very important to make sure you're preventing dehydration and poor performance. General rule of thumb, weigh yourself before and after exercise. For every pound lost, you want to make sure you're consuming about at least 2 to 3 cups of fluids after you're exercising to increase for your replenishment.
All right, so Maria, let's paint a picture here.
Yeah.
You've trained for the race, the marathon is over. What happens now?
So recovery. So recovery is so important, especially right after you exercise. Immediately after, you do want to make sure you're hydrating immediately. Fluids, whether it's water or sports drinks, you want to make sure you're replenishing your fluids. 3 main goals for recovery includes, you want to make sure you're getting your hydration in, You want to make sure you're getting carbohydrates in, and you also want to make sure you're having protein to repair any muscle damage, tissue damage as well. Generally speaking, 15 to an hour afterwards, so 15 to 60 minutes after your exercise, you want to make sure you're having some sort of post-workout snack. So those can include a smoothie with yogurt and berries, or even a banana with chocolate milk. You just want to make sure you're constantly replenishing your body.
Well, Maria, we thank you for joining us. You're helping to improve our diets, and I'm sure runners preparing for these races will thank you.
This message brought to you by the LaSalle Nutrition Department.